Welcome to the Bibliophile. Today I'm gonna talk about an historical fiction regarding the 18th century scientist Dr. Mesmer, who had the piano player Maria Therese as a patient. The author recognizes the non-fiction challenges when looking them from the present perspective, trying to focus at that time. Nothing is clear-cut or simple, and we practice our art in an arena very different from that which history reads back upon us, or which we read back upon the past. History sees things simply, instructed by the results. Success or failure is history's criterion. It is related with other videos when we talk about the historician's interpretation, such as What's the Story of Edward Carr, and other interpretations where writers reflect on this issue, such as The Crime of an Academic from Anatole, France, and some others. This book is The Strange Case of Mademoiselle P by Brian O'Doherty. This book presents Maria Therese, blind since child, but as she is an expert musician, is under Empress protection. Dr. Mesmer is gonna treat her for her blindness, her illness, but later the treatment stops working. And due to the fame of the physician and the patient, Dr. Mesmer is going to be under examination for his healing methods. It is based on the historical fact. You can check it in Wikipedia. That's why I'm wondering why the author doesn't start showing the names of the characters. Maybe he's trying to create some mystery, or is he trying to let the readers to discover the time and the characters? I don't know, but it is a fact that this strategy doesn't work. He should pay attention to his own advice. He should take advantage of the fame of the characters and plot the whole story clear from the beginning. Thus logic knows itself and nothing beyond itself, since it lives within its own borders. I think he should try to use the story, the historical fact, and focus on them, not trying to use several strategies to create tension or to create mysteries. He should try to keep it simple, because another criticism could be done. Writer presents a lot of perspectives, but they are not related beyond the historical fact. He should focus on one of them and develop it, because he presents several hypotheses, several descriptions, several aspects, but at the end, he leaves a lot of doubts. For example, the philosophical background is good to show how some tests performed to a blind that recovers the sight sense could not work, such as this. I began to show Maria Therese various objects in the low light. My aim was not that she named them, for how could she name what she had never seen? Language indeed became clumsy in our pursuits, for having no names to attach to the objects. Since each object is surrounded by 100 names in different languages, to each of which the object itself is different, the object and its name being two different orders of existence, connected only by common agreement and memory. I think this philosophical explanation is quite sharp. It's good in order to show that maybe the blind is not capable to name the things. But I have some doubts because she has some experience living in the world. And maybe you can find some mistakes that the writer does, because sometimes the blind girl is capable to name things and sometimes not. And the problem is not only the sight sense, it's a problem of an holistic interpretation of reality, because she knows about stars but not about other closer objects, something that invites to reflection. At this point, the work is good. It tries to focus on the state of the science. He tries to focus on the problem of blindness, but later on, some mistakes arise, because the author tries to show several hypotheses, several perspectives, and everything becomes a chaos. Maybe he was trying to explore all the gossip, all the scandal related to the fact, but as he didn't develop it, everything is left in a chaos. Everything is unclear. For example, talking about some possible scandal, let's see this. When had I transgressed? What had possessed me to take advantage of a young woman whose illness I was trying to relieve and whose trust in me was absolute? For the rest of the night, my sleep was fevered and restless, haunted by the deepest sense of shame. He tries to explore this hypothesis, maybe supported by the gossip and the scandal, but the way the writer develops it is not efficient, is not well accomplished. For example, another perspective that he explores is the following, about the father. My mind proceeded to offer me further shocks. Had vile thoughts of his daughter and myself entered his mind? He was jealous and overfond of her, that was clear. Had some monstrous thoughts in his own mind been ascribed to me? I have seen this before. People sometimes attribute their own unacceptable desires to others, whom they then attack. He's talking about the father and tries to explore all the chaos, all possible situations related to the psychological problems. But for the plot and the story, it's totally irrelevant. It wasn't developed. Even the most likely aspect, the economical one, is not developed in a proper way. It's just mentioned. They worked on Paradise, who began to fear for his daughter's person, and to worry that advantages offered by a solicitous majesty might cease. Obviously, it is the girl's pension I refer to here. I think this is the most important aspect, because the economical one is commonly the proper one, because obviously her parents were worried about her musical expertise and the Empress protection. But again, due to all the hypotheses, descriptions, and things mentioned in the work, all we have is a chaos. But all those hypotheses, conspiracies, psychological and economical aspects leave doubts but not answers. He should focus on one of them and develop it, instead of jumping in the time and even use gypsies and other magician characters with no purpose. At the end, the author seems to defend Mesmer and forgot the internal needings for literature purposes. All he left was doubts, conspiracies, hypotheses, good descriptions in some occasions, good philosophical reflections, but not a good story. But something that I wanted to highlight, that I think it's interesting, is the exploration of bias, because those bias are a kind of blindness. My confusion is hard to imagine for those whose eyes confirm their other senses by habit. I want to highlight some remarkable reflections and thoughts that I think are very related to the philosopher Bacon, because explore and give us some examples of the bias. For example, we have bias based on our hopes. Let's see this example. My hopes encouraged me beyond my judgment, and such was the atmosphere of that place that you will tend to believe anything you wanted to. I think it's clear the exposition, because sometimes our judgment is blind because of our expectations, our hopes, and it is a good example. Or let's look this another one. Nothing ahead to expectations that always arrive in some disguise or other. For our expectations so blind us that we misperceive what was not yet happened. There are several examples in this work where the author highlights how our expectations, how our hopes lead us to perceive, understand, and judge things in a different way. Or even talking about the science related to the time of the work, talking about the examination of the academy, he talks about the bias related to the authorities. Let's see this. There is no more easily influenced profession in the world, since its jealousies are notorious, and we have much amusement at court, praising one physician to the other and watching the response. They have their own little court with its favor and influence, showing how the physicians and scientists have their own issues related to the authority bias, and this other bias related to the perspective of the group, of the tribe, as Bacon exposed it. It is the belief of reasonable men that the fables of individuals are, when joined in discourse with those of their fellows, compressed by a common sense into a page on which truth can write its name. Each mind has its shadows, but we believe that together men who seek truth illuminate each other's darknesses. This reflection is very interesting, but sometimes it's the opposite, because it's widely known that madness is so contagious that instead of illuminate others, we create some shadows in others' minds. Those are some of the bias that I could identify and that let me enjoy this work and the story he plots. Even that it's not perfectly accomplished, and at the end I got more doubts than answers, and the story is not completely clear. But even though, it's a reading that you could enjoy. This is all that I have to share with you. I expect that you leave me your comments, and obviously that you subscribe to my channel for further videos. Thank you very much, and goodbye.